in just a minute. Kids, you guys are going to go downstairs to Lakewood Kids. And the rest of you guys, we're going to take a minute and greet somebody. Now, usually I'll let you greet whoever you want. You should say hi to everybody. But there's a very important person we want to say hi to today. And that is Mr. Charlie, who had his 94th birthday on Friday. So now I will say, when you say hi to him, I know it's tradition to give birthday punches. Do not give him birthday punches, not because he's 94 and fragile, but because he's 94 and will hit you back, okay? So go say happy birthday to Charlie, go say hi to somebody, and we'll be back here in a few minutes. All right, settle down, settle down. It's good to see you guys. Thank you for those who are watching online. I'm sorry I forgot to start it on time, so you are just joining us now. But welcome. That's love when you wait 48 minutes to join us. So thank you so much for those who are watching online. All right, so we're going to continue our series called A Living Hope. And this is our series as we move through the book of 1 Peter. Love the book of 1 Peter because it's all about hope. It's all about having that living hope. And there's so many things that happen in this world that can take our hope away, that can rob us of hope. And Peter just keeps, throughout this book, he keeps giving us reasons to have hope. Reasons to have hope in a world that often feels hopeless, right? Reasons to have hope in a world, in a culture that is dark and distant from God and wants nothing to do with God, it seems like, right? He says you still have hope because the darker this world gets, the brighter we get to shine, right? So there's all these reasons for hope. And now this morning, we're going to talk about the power of a single message. It's amazing how you can get one text message that can change your whole life, right? There's power in words. And I was thinking about it this week. There's certain phrases, there's certain messages that you can get that are so earth-shattering. They're so powerful that they have the ability to stop whatever you're doing, whatever you're going through, and it changes everything about your life. It's almost like when you receive this message, time stands still, right? And that could be good or bad. It could be good or bad. And it reminds me of a day, a very specific day and time. This happened a few years ago. It was January 13th, 2018. I don't know if you guys remember this, but it was Saturday morning, January 13th, 2018, and it affected people in Hawaii. It was a normal Saturday, and people were waking up in Hawaii like they usually do on a normal Saturday. Some people were waking up, and they were waking up to their vacation of a lifetime, right? It was just a miracle. It was like, I can't believe we're here. We finally made it to Hawaii. It's Saturday morning. It's gorgeous. They woke up like that. It was just a normal Saturday. Some were waking up with a little bit of trouble because they had a little bit too much fun on Friday night, all right? And they were trying to sober up that morning in Hawaii's islands. Others were normal locals, and they were waking up and getting ready to do their usual Saturday routine, whatever that was with the kids or their coffee or whatever it was. But then everything stopped when they received, the people in Hawaii received this alert, this text message. It said this: emergency alert. Ballistic missile threat inbound to Hawaii. Seek immediate shelter. This is not a drill. That's a jarring message to get, right? I mean, could you imagine you're waking up on an average Saturday morning and you open up your phone and bam. Basically, what that message was saying was your life is about to be over. Your time on this planet is about to be done. And it's amazing to see, as I was looking back into this, that they said for 38 minutes, that message changed so many people's lives on the islands of Hawaii because they literally thought their lives were over. In fact, for the next 38 minutes, people started to think about things that really mattered. Things that honestly they probably should have been thinking about already, but weren't. Suddenly, their minds and their focus was on things that were so valuable that they weren't thinking about before. A lot of text messages got sent out in those 38 minutes. Text messages saying, I love you. Please forgive me. I'm sorry. Text trying to make things right. Text trying to patch up relationships with alienated family members because they didn't know how much time they had, but they knew it wasn't going to be much. They started thinking about questions that, like I said, they should have been asking themselves already, but just don't seem pertinent in the moment until you get a text like that. Questions about their existence. Questions about the meaning of life. Questions about what happens when your life on this earth is over. That question may not seem important right now, but when you realize you only have a few minutes left on this planet, suddenly what comes after this life is suddenly an important question. Questions about the impact that their life had. Did I live a life that's going to leave any legacy behind? Questions about God and heaven and hell. Questions about their loved ones and if they spent enough time showing them love. All these things were flooding through these people's minds for 38 minutes. For 38 minutes, they realized that their life was about to end. They started asking questions that they should have asked much sooner. How will I be remembered? What conversations have I not had that I should have had? What decisions did I not make that I should have made? And then, of course, in my opinion, the most important questions. Am I right with God? And am I ready for eternity? When you're staring at the end of your life, these questions matter so much. And I thought about this morning, this week, as I was preparing this message, because it's amazing how if we received a text message right now saying that our lives on this planet were about to be over very shortly, everything that I just talked about would be what we were thinking about and asking, right? You would not think I was strange or weird by bringing up the idea of, hey, let's talk about God, heaven and hell. Let's talk about eternity. Let's talk about, are we right with God? Let's talk about, do you have everything in your life prepared for the next life, right? These are things that we'd be like, yeah, we need to get this down because we've got minutes, Pastor, right? But isn't it amazing how often we live our lives focusing on so many other things? Those really important things that we just talked about don't seem to come up very often. But for 38 minutes in Hawaii on January 13th, 2018, that was all they could think about. Now, of course, They then, after 38 minutes, received the message that alert was sent in mistake. Big mistake. A lot of people lost their job at the emergency alert systems. But for 38 minutes, they had a whole new perspective on life. For 38 minutes, they had a lot more important things going on than what's the weather going to be like and their favorite sports team and their jobs even, right? And I say that to say this because in 1 Peter chapter 4, we've been in this series for 12 weeks. And it's almost like we're getting all this hope from Peter, and then all of a sudden in 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 7, which we're going to look at in a second, Peter almost sends us an emergency alert text message. It's a jarring phrase. It's a phrase that as I was getting ready to prepare, it struck me this week and I couldn't get past it. I had a whole nother sermon planned. You guys got to wait till next week for this. But this phrase just jumped out at me because it almost seems jarring. It almost seems as unexpected as that text message they received in Hawaii in 2018. Because out of all this hope talk, Peter says this in 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 7. This is our urgent message that Peter has for us. He says this in verse 7. The end of all things is at hand. My translation, the end is near. Peter says in the middle of this book, and he's writing this book, and he's talking about hope and the hope that we have. He says, now listen up. The end is at hand. The end is near. The end of all things is near. In other words, listen, we don't like to think about this very often, but let's be real. None of us are promised tomorrow. None of us are promised lunch today. Now, I plan on it, but we're not promised it. And Peter has this message for us. And as I was reading this, I said, well, why did Peter say this? Why does Peter, in this book about hope, why does he take the time to stop and say, hey, before we go any further, just so you know, the end is near. The end of all things is at hand. It's coming. It's coming quicker than you want. And here's the reality. We got to pay attention to this because of two things. Number one, like I just mentioned, we're not promised life past this second, right? God controls the breath in our bodies, right? And the fact that we're still here means that God has a purpose for us. Amen? And that ought to be encouraging for you this morning, all right? Don't ever wake up thinking you don't have a purpose. If you didn't have a purpose, God wouldn't have woke you up this morning, all right? And I say that all the time. Some of y'all think that your iPhone woke you up. Your iPhone didn't wake you up. God Almighty woke you up, okay? Because that iPhone can beep all at once. If Jesus doesn't say you have another breath, you don't get another breath. Can I get an amen in the house of God? All right? So God has a plan for you. That's why you're here. But we're not promised tomorrow. We're not promised one more moment. We're promised right now. So we don't know. Our lives could end at any moment. But not only that, we also know in the Bible that Jesus Christ is coming back. He's coming back, and he can return at any moment. So at any moment, we could take our last breath. At any moment, Jesus could return. Either way, at any moment, our life on this planet can end. And we need to be ready for it. We need to be aware. We need to be prepared. And that's why Peter says, listen, he goes, the end is near. The end of all things is at hand. Now don't that guy on the corner with the sign, the end is near. Ooh, all right? It's not what he's saying. He's not saying be terrified, be scared. We should not be scared. All right? In fact, we should read back. Amen? Like I don't know about you, but this world stinks, all right? This world is broken. This world hurts. This world is not all there is, and thank God this world's not all there is, because we have something so much greater waiting for us in heaven for those who believe in Jesus Christ. And it should fire us up that at any moment, Jesus could return and make all things right. And I don't know about you, but I look forward to that. So it's not meant to scare you. It's also, he doesn't say this to make us lazy, all right? All right, that's a lot of people, especially in Thessalonians, they were dealing with this, where they're like, hey, Jesus could come back. He's coming back. So why am I going to work today? I'm really been, right? This is something that my wife has to. This is coming soon, all right? I don't need to live that long. I just got to live long enough that he can lift me up, all right? And honestly, I said, the more I eat, the more impressive it is when he calls me up, all right? Because you see a skinny guy fly in the air, you see a fat boy in the air, you're like, yo, praise Jesus, all right? So I'm just saying, I'm helping everybody out. She doesn't buy it either. All right, so he's not saying it to scare you. He's not saying it to make you lazy. And he's definitely here, all right? So when you hear the end is near, do not put your tinfoil hats on this morning, okay? We're not about that, all right? And even the disciples wrestled with this because Jesus was talking about the fact that, hey, the end is near. I'm coming back. And the disciples were like, well, when? How? And I love what Jesus said in Matthew chapter 24. He says, verse 36, but concerning that day and hour, no one knows, not even the angels of heaven, nor the Son, but the Father only. Translation, Jesus is like, don't worry about when. Don't worry about how. All right? He's like, look, you go crazy. You'll be like that guy in the detective movies with the red lines trying to figure out who's the killer, you know? He's like, you'll go crazy trying to figure out. I don't tell you that the end is coming so you figure out when he's coming or how he's coming. He says, here's why I tell you. He says, and Paul gives us a hint in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 1 and 2. He says, now concerning the seasons, brothers, you have no need to have anything written to you. He's like, look, don't worry about when, don't worry about how. For you yourselves are fully aware that the day of the Lord will come, for you do not know on what day your Lord is coming. Here's the point. Peter says, look, the end is coming. He doesn't say that to scare you. I'm not trying to scare you this morning. He's not saying that to make you lazy. Hey, nothing matters. Jesus come back. Let's just party, all right? He's not saying that to make you conspiracy theorists. Well, let's figure out when. He says, listen, I'm telling you the end is coming so that you're prepared and ready. You got to be ready. You got to prepare. To prepare for eternity. And the question that every one of us should be wrestling with today, because you don't know how long you live, you could take your last breath at any moment, because Jesus could return at any moment, the question that we need to be asking and wrestling, am I ready for the life that lasts forever and ever and ever? Because as James chapter 4 says, this life that we have right now, it's a mist. It's a mist. It's here and it's gone. Here and gone. So are you ready? Jesus tells us an incredible story about this. In fact, as we near, it's at hand. Basically saying this, it's a phrase, the end is a Greek phrase that means the end. Impressed with your study that I put in. It's a phrase that means finality. It's like the end is near. In other words, he's saying this. It's like at the end, right? You remember back in the day, they used to put the end on it, right? The end, and it was like come up, and then you knew. You're like, oh, it's over, great. But the ending is horrible. The movie sucks, right? Like it's a horrible movie. There have been times where I've loved a movie, and then the ending is horrible, and I'm like, I will never watch a movie. You're walking out of the theater like, that was a great